Today, on a special edition of Investigate TV, potentially life-threatening products on the market, recall powers given to companies, and the public left in the dark.
Moms and dads are putting their babies in this product that they had no idea could be so dangerous.
More than 100 children killed and thousands injured in incidents involving furniture known to tip over. We speak to a grieving mother taking actions.
If they want every person in the world to know about their product, they'll spend the money to get there. The day they find out their product is unsafe, they have no idea how to reach people.
And the agency charged with oversight says its hands are tied from informing consumers about the threats.
So right now there are hundreds of products on the market that are potentially dangerous that you can't let the consumers know about?
I think that's a safe guess, yeah.
Investigate TV special Defective starts now. Hello and welcome to a special edition of Investigate TV. I'm Zurik. Recalls of potentially dangerous products make headlines, but it's not the government who controls when these warnings are issued. Our team uncovered a protective provision for companies tucked into a law meant to keep consumers safe. We explain in the investigation, Defective.
So as a grandmother, I panicked until I screamed out, "No."
Jan Hinson found her 7-week-old grandson blue and lifeless, his tiny head flipped to the side.
And as I lifted him and his legs were just dangling straight down and his arms were dangling and his head was flopped all the way over, I thought, he's dead.
While babysitting, Hinson placed Asher Goodrich into a rock and play, an incline sleeper made by Fisher-Price, marketed to help fussy or colicky babies.
Something is not right. Something's not right. No baby should be positioned like I just found him.
Little did Hinson know in 2014, as Asher was rushed to the hospital, Fisher-Price and the federal government had reports of babies who stopped breathing while in the sleeper, and some had died.
That information was kept from the public, and so every night, thousands, if not millions, of moms and dads were putting their babies in this product that they had no idea could be so dangerous, that other babies had died using it the very same way they were using it.
According to a 2019 government study on incline sleepers that affirmed the dangers, the reason babies can be injured or die is muscles aren't developed enough to self-correct if they roll or get into another position where their airflow is cut off, and they can suffocate. In an old boiler factory in Chicago,
All right.
Nancy Cowles runs Kids in Danger, a consumer advocacy group that came to be because of a different tragedy, the death of a toddler due to a defective crib. Congress created the Consumer Product Safety Commission in 1972. The name sounds like it's there to protect consumers.
However, it's been built up over the years and has different regulations that often prevent that and do often put the manufacturer's interests ahead of consumers.
The reason why? A provision in the federal consumer law known as Section 6B that puts the power into the hands of manufacturers and not the federal government. The law, written by Congress, requires the Consumer Product Safety Commission to get permission from companies before they reveal any negative information about their product. In fact, when we tried to get documentation about the rock and play from CPSC, we were first denied. After getting our legal team involved, we received this, pages with almost every piece of information removed because the company is claiming giving up details about notifying consumers is giving up trade secrets. After media reports tying rock and play to about 30 infant deaths, Fisher-Price announced a voluntary recall of the product in 2019. 5 years after Jan Hinson's grandson nearly lost his life.
That is just not the way to do it. It's all backwards.
Last year, Fisher-Price publicly admitted that it was aware of 97 deaths. The CEO of its parent company, Mattel, said parents had not used the rock and play correctly.
By the time we decided to recall the product, it became apparent that there is a pattern of use where, based on the data that we collected, that the product was not used in accordance with the instructions and warnings.
Jan Hinson's grandson spent days in the hospital and survived. He's now in elementary school. While he's fortunate, Hinson believes their scary ordeal could have been prevented if the CPSC acted sooner and the Rock and Play was recalled in 2012 when the first death was reported.
It's going to happen again. It's just a matter of time.
The family of Asher Goodrich sued Fisher-Price for failing to warn consumers, but their case was dismissed before the recall. A Georgia judge said they lacked expert testimony to show the product's design was defective or that it was the immediate cause of injury. Coming up, bureaucracy at its worst as red tape gets in the way of you protecting your loved ones.
And Camden died, and Connor died, and Ted died. The CPSC knew that the product that I had in my home was very imminently dangerous.
A mourning mother shares her story after the break. Welcome back to Investigate TV. Over the last 2 decades, furniture tip-overs have killed dozens of children and injured thousands. The government issued warnings of the overall issue, but recalls for specific models, pieces consumers complained about, took years, and critics blame a clunky system.
And this is probably hard to reconcile, but if the federal government would have done a better job, your son
would be alive.
Just days away from her son Camden's 2nd birthday, Crystal Ellis put him down to sleep in his bed, just a few steps away from his new IKEA Malm dresser. What happened next in the middle of the night might be hard for you to hear.
But he leaned into the second drawer to pull clothes out of the drawers, as many toddlers do. And as he leaned in to the second drawer, the first drawer came out and trapped him between the 2 drawers. And as that happened, he fell and the whole dresser pinned him to the floor.
On Father's Day 2014, Camden Ellis died. Killed when he was trapped by a type of product the federal government and the Consumer Product Safety Commission, or CPSC, knew could be dangerous.
We had no idea. We had no idea.
For years before Camden's death, the agency warned generally of furniture tip-overs. It publicly reported in 2006 that over a 5-year period, it knew of 65 furniture-related deaths. Its advice to parents: make sure furniture is stable or attach pieces to the floor or wall. But dressers like the one Camden was trapped in remained on the market with voluntary safety guidelines that turned out weren't being followed.
This is bureaucracy at its worst.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Our national investigative team found the CPSC is often slow to alert the public to dangers, partially because the laws in place allow companies to dictate how and when most recalls happen.
There's information communicated to the public, but it really gives a lot of the regulated firms the upper hand because they're controlling ultimately the flow of information.
The year after Camden Ellis's death, the CPSC and IKEA issued a warning telling consumers to anchor the dresser to the wall, with the company launching a repair kit program. But still no recall.
After my son died, you know what they got? An education campaign, where if you called them, they would send you an anchoring kit.
Then in 2016, after a 3rd death, IKEA agreed to a recall of 29 million dressers for the Malm and other models. The reason? While the company included anchoring hardware to affix the dressers to the wall, the company said its furniture didn't meet voluntary safety standards. IKEA's was just one of 18 recalls of dressers in the last decade, meaning millions and millions of customers bought furniture from different stores that should be returned or fixed. Here's where critics say the next problem comes in. Recall procedures don't incentivize customers to return defective products or companies to aggressively publicize the announcements.
If they want every person in the world to know about their product, they'll spend the money to get there. The day they find out their product is unsafe, they have no idea how to reach people.
In fact, IKEA and the CPSC ended up re-announcing the recall in 2017, with the death toll tied to the company's dressers now at 8 children.
The recall was so ineffective that children continued to die because they didn't hear about the recall.
Crystal Ellis turned her grief into advocacy.
I know that he's helping me. I know that he is saying, Mommy, look what this does. You know, take that, run with it, and use your voice and save the others.
The CPSC announced in January that it soon would approve a new mandatory safety standard for all clothing storage units to prevent tip-overs, a standard Crystal Ellis hopes will prevent tragedies in the future.
Like I said, you don't even know that this system is a problem until you have to encounter it firsthand in the middle of tragedy and grief.
In an email, IKEA said it has a new sales requirement for customers who buy dressers. Customers must acknowledge the need for a wall attachment and register their contact information so they receive safety notifications. The company says it supports mandatory safety standards for dressers. Up next, information about a baby product linked to more than a dozen deaths withheld from parents. We speak to a conflicted CPSC commissioner after the break.
Not being able to tell the public when that should be our most central role, trumpeting that information from the rooftops, it's heartbreaking and aggravating.
Welcome back to Investigate TV. Fisher-Price has recalled baby products before. Now it's cautioning parents about another item. But that warning on a baby rocker only came after more than a dozen children died. A government product safety official opens up to us about a law he says is preventing him and others from saying more.
Savannah was born perfectly healthy. She was the joy of our life. We loved her a lot.
3 years ago, Kathy Greninger lost her granddaughter, little Savannah, without warning.
It was the worst thing I've ever had to say. I mean, you just don't imagine ever having to tell your child that their child is dead.
Grab it, baby.
This is the last memory of 4-month-old Savannah alive in her Fisher-Price infant-to-toddler rocker. Hours later, Kathy's son-in-law called her over. Savannah was gone.
You don't just have a healthy baby that just passes away when they're sleeping unless something contributes to it.
Kathy, who's a nurse, says the coroner blamed the death on the rocker and the position it left Savannah in. As she slept, her face turned to the side.
The official cause of death was listed as positional asphyxia related to the rocking chair.
Kathy reported Savannah's death to Fisher-Price. Here's the email proving they spoke. But that communication and a lack of transparency by the company has a member of Congress livid.
They absolutely misled me and the committee and Congress.
In June of 2021, the CEO of Mattel, Fisher-Price's parent company, appeared before Congress to answer questions about deaths caused by another product, the Rock and Play. That product, now recalled, is tied to nearly 100 deaths. Congresswoman Jackie Speer wanted to know if any other Fisher-Price products caused deaths.
My question to you is, do you have any other products that are manufactured today that are in the marketplace that have been linked to deaths of children?
Well, we recalled the gliders that were linked.
I understand that. I'm talking about any other products that we, the American public, do not know about that have caused or have been associated with the deaths of children.
We share all information with the CPSC. I don't have any further data than that.
The CEO wouldn't provide a direct answer, even though the company knew about Savannah.
Did Fisher-Price mislead you in that hearing?
Well, if they were aware of another death with another product, they absolutely misled me and the committee and Congress.
Since 2011, records show the Consumer Product Safety Commission, or CPSC, passed along at least 20 consumer complaints of deaths, injuries, and incidents to Fisher-Price. But it wasn't until March of this year that the CPSC got a briefing on a pattern.
They sent us a package of hundreds and hundreds of pages of information about the deaths associated with that product.
And this CPSC commissioner says they were blocked for more than 2 months after that, not allowed to warn the public.
Not being able to tell the public when that should be our most central role. You know, trumpeting that information from the rooftops, it's heartbreaking and aggravating.
In June, the CPSC and Fisher-Price finally issued a warning about the rocker, telling parents not to let their children sleep in the rockers, also revealing Savannah is one of 13 babies who died. Attached to that warning, the commissioner's scathing statement because of what he calls a gag rule, the law that allows the companies to control when and how the CPSC issues warnings and recalls.
Whatever you see is a watered-down version of what we wanted to say. It is a half-throated warning to the public because we had to negotiate every word of it with the company.
So the warning on the infant to toddler rocker is not as strong as you would have liked it?
It doesn't match our first draft for sure, and I would have certainly liked to say more. I mean, there's things that I know about that product and what happened with it that I'm not allowed to say because of the gag rule.
Congresswoman Spears says she wants to hold another hearing and bring the CEO back in front of Congress. Kathy Greninger wants answers too.
If you're reporting a product that is unsafe, how is it that the manufacturers are policing themselves? Of course, they're making money off of these products. They're not going to let the consumer know until they have to.
Fisher-Price did not respond to our national team's request for an interview or comment. Coming up, a lawmaker fighting to lift the shroud of secrecy over harmful products.
I'm not in favor of over-regulation. I'm in favor of simple truth-telling, which can save lives.
More on Senator Richard Blumenthal's proposed legislation after the break. Welcome back to Investigate TV. Substantial product hazard reports detail the deaths, injuries, and dangerous incidents tied to products. They're full of pertinent information any consumer would want to know. But those details aren't always released. And one official says that should terrify all of us.
A federal agency responsible for regulating products like appliances, tools, and toys knows dangerous items are currently on store shelves in every state.
I'm not allowed to say, I couldn't say that if I wanted to, and I'm not saying that specifically.
You can't tell us right now in this interview.
I couldn't tell my wife.
I can't get into the specifics.
The gag rule is what's blocking that from happening. That's a simple question.
That case, but what I can
tell
you is
I
can't
say anything outside the four corners of what we put in that document.
And what would happen if you did say something?
I'm not going to violate the law, so I don't want to find out the answer to that question.
But a federal law forced this commissioner to decline answering many of our questions about potentially dangerous baby products.
There are products out there right now that I think I would love to tell the public about the harms that they present, and the gag rule prevents me from doing that.
Richard Trumka sits on the Consumer Product Safety Commission, or CPSC, which is responsible for regulating thousands of household products. If Trumka made the laws, he would have screamed loud warnings when we interviewed him near the nation's capital.
So right now there are hundreds of products on the market that are potentially dangerous that you can't let the consumers know about?
I think that's a safe guess, yeah.
Scary guess.
It should be terrifying to all of us, absolutely. That's why we need to repeal the gag rule.
When a company learns that a product it sells could be defective or dangerous, it's required by law to notify the CPSC within 24 hours by filing a substantial product hazard report. But most of the information in those reports to the Commission remains confidential, secret to the public.
I think it's the most frustrating part of the job sitting here at the Consumer Product Safety Commission.
This spring, we requested copies of the hazard report submitted by the makers of 51 previously recalled products, from pacifiers to ceiling fans, to see what they told the CPSC. We only got 18 back, and those records looked like this, because under the law, the companies were allowed to review and withhold information they didn't want released. The result? Pages almost completely whited out. We took our records to Connecticut Senator Richard Blumenthal, who was calling for changes, pushing a new law that would lift the veil of secrecy when a company tells the government it might have a problem.
I'm just aghast at this kind of censorship. When you look at this heading, identification and description of the product, something so simple and elemental as a description of the product, deleted, redacted, censored. That's outrageous.
To illustrate the true impacts of this censorship, meet Erica Richter.
It is every mother's worst nightmare when you see your baby blue and unresponsive.
Her daughter Emma, a perfectly healthy 2-week-old, died in a Fisher-Price rock and play.
This is my world. This is my life. I made her. This is my daughter. And Fisher-Price stole her from me.
Congressional records show in February of 2018, Fisher-Price notified the CPSC that 15 babies had died in the rock and play, submitting a substantial product hazard report.
They knew that their product was killing infants every year. Every year they would get reports.
6 months after the company filed with the CPSC with that report hidden from the public, Erica Richter saw her daughter alive for the last time.
This is just my story of my government failing my daughter and failing the innocent lives of infants.
And even today, the hazard report is still being concealed, locked behind laws that Erica Richter says are failing to protect Americans, especially the most vulnerable.
I mean, anybody watching this should be very concerned. Very concerned. You don't want to know what's behind the vault of what they know is killing people, right? Literally killing people that they can't tell us about.
Erica Richter is one of dozens of parents who have sued Fisher-Price and whose cases are still pending. Fisher-Price responded to the lawsuit in court and denies every allegation asserted. The company has never responded to our national team's requests for comment. Just recently, a law went into effect called the Safe Sleep for Babies Act. It bans the sale of incline sleepers not only in stores, but on the secondary market. So it's now illegal to sell products like the Rock and Play at garage sales or online. If you're looking for more investigative reporting on demand, download our streaming apps on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV. That's it for us here on Investigate TV. Thanks for joining us. We hope to see you next week.